all, I welcome this decision, and we always talk about equality, and first time in India, and now we are getting the equal pay as men are getting, and I'm really happy.
It's a big day for women's cricket. This was it was long due. It was required for sports, particularly in India as well as the society. This will give huge boost to women's cricket.
Hello everyone, good evening. You're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. The BCCI has made a historic announcement stating that the match fee for both men and women contracted cricketers will be the same. BCCI Secretary Jay Shah confirmed that contracted senior women's cricketers will earn the same match fee as their male counterparts. The decision comes just days after it was decided at the BCCI AGM that the first season of the women's IPL will be played in 2023. This comes weeks after New Zealand Cricket had struck a deal with the country's Players Association, clearing the way for women cricketers to earn as much as male players. Meanwhile, Cricket Australia is also working to do away with gender disparity. In a nation where cricket is religion, this move aims to boost women's cricket, which is already on a roll. Under the captaincy of Harmanpreet Kaur, the team reclaimed its Asia Cup crown for a seventh time and also clinched a historic 3-0 ODI series clean sweep against England. The team also clinched a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games. So what does this change mean for our women cricket stars? Earlier in Test series, it was 4 lakh rupees per match. Now it is 15 lakh rupees per match. Earlier, in ODIs, it was 1 lakh rupees per match. Now it is 6 lakh rupees per match. Earlier in T20 matches, women used to get 1 lakh rupees. Now it is 3 lakh rupees per match. So what are women in blue thinking about it? Mithali Raj is a former captain of women's cricket team. She is the quintessential woman in blue face for most of us. Mithali, really appreciate your time. This is a momentous day and a progressive step. How are you looking at this announcement that has come from the BCCI?
I think for starters, it's a fantastic move. Quite excited and thrilled that it's another big decision in terms of the milestone that women's cricket has achieved in the past few years. From the central contract to the women's IPL being announced,
yes,
and then the equal pay in terms of the match fees for both for the women cricketers. So I think it's a great move.
Yes, and Mithali, this gender pay parity is something that has been in demand for a long time. Would you say that's coming late, or are you among those who say that it's better late than never?
Well, I would say I am the later one, better late than never. But I personally also feel that for all the changes to happen in the right direction, it is one step at a time.
Yes.
Nothing happens overnight, and you can't expect all the changes to happen at once. So like when the central contract happened, and then slowly things have started to roll for women's cricket. And today we get to see equal match fees for the girls. And slowly there will be many more decisions like that coming in the future. But women's cricket has its own journey as a sport it had, And if we want women's cricket to be currently where men's cricket stands, this is a huge impetus in the right direction, I would say.
Yes, absolutely. And this announcement, Mithali, says that the match fee for both men and women cricketers will be the same, which is 15 lakhs for test matches and 16 lakhs for ODI. But there are several other categories as well. Would you be raising concerns or questions about that, or as to when will that parity be there? Because BCCI has 4 categories for men, which includes an A+ category for men, where men get 7 crores, and there is no A+ category as far as women cricket team is concerned.
See, I think first I would like to enjoy this huge, big decision and see, what sort of a impact it is going to have overall, just not limiting to the team or to the current national players or national side, but in terms of the expanding the pool of players, how young girls take up the sport, or what sort of a ratio of girls will be keen to get into the sport, because the sport slowly is turning into a complete professional career for girls who are very passionate to take up cricket as a profession. And how it will change the landscape of women's cricket in terms of market and viewership. Of course, there's huge viewership in the past few years. The sport has its own fan base. Women's cricket has its own fan base. Players are managed by, there are many sports management agencies. They are household names. They endorse brands. So I think everything slowly is falling into place. So I will not look into what else has to happen. But yes, there's one thing that I thoroughly wish, that the Indian team should go on to win an ICC tournament. That would be a huge thing,
Yes.
along with all these developments.
Yes. And Mithali, would you also say that perhaps this kind of development, this kind of red letter day should have come when you were playing? That would have been perhaps special for you as well, personally?
Well, as I said, the sport has its journey, and I've been part of the journey for a long time. And I've seen the bad days and the good days. Coming under BCCI definitely is changed a lot for women's cricket. And I would say that I've been very honest here that, probably I was one of the few or the only player who could see the entire journey from where it started to where it is today. And I don't have the feeling that it should have come when I was playing. Probably my legacy is that, to see the day of today where women's cricket is, to get these changes and pass on the baton to the future players who will take it on from there. Everybody have a role to play. I had my role in this journey through the sport. And I'm very happy and glad to live to see this day where, the girls will be paid equal match fees. And I'm sure there will come a point where men's cricket stands today. There will be women's cricket. Women's cricket also will stand at that level. And I will live that day as well.
Yes, and cricket often sets the path for other games. Will this lead to gender pay parity in other games as well, say hockey, football?
Yes, of course, the other organizations can look at this as an example and probably help the women's sport overall in different fields, to get it to where it is today and where women's cricket is today. But yes, again, I would say that it's a process. It will take some time. But it is important that the organizations everywhere should work towards getting equal pay parity for men and women and reduce this disparity.
And to women who will be joining cricket and to all the sportswomen who came before you, of course, they traveled several miles for you to, take forward that journey, and it's almost like a baton relay that we are seeing. Mithali, I remember the conversation you and I had when that movie Shabash Mithu was being released, and you had specifically said that there was no recording of all the matches that were played by you, no documentation per se. And now we are talking about a landmark day of this nature, where the BCCI has made that announcement.
Well, yes, I think we've come a long way from matches which were just memory for most of us in those days. And now where, the girls can see the best innings in a loop, like rewind and play and see how they have done well. And for people also to see the journey of women's cricket from now on. So I think the sport definitely has come a long way. All of us had some part to play. And it will only strengthen as the years go by, which I would like to say that, most of you all know women's IPL is scheduled next year. That's going to be a huge thing. There's under 19 World Cup for the first time. And I'm quite excited to see how our under 19 girls will do in the World Cup. Then there's T20 World Cup as well for women next year. So I think it's a big year for women's cricket globally. And this, as you rightly said, it's a landmark thing for Indian women's cricket. And I only hope that, there are many more girls who are well supported by their parents to take up this sport and expand the pool of players, that at a point where we get to see the bench strength is just as equally strong as the national side.
Absolutely. Mithali, the gender pay parity is something that has been spoken about by other professionals in, women in other fields as well. Superstars, Hollywood, women actors, all of them have spoken about it. Do you think there's need for more conversations that is needed? Women should talk more often about getting their due?
Yes, I think in the past few years, a lot of us have spoken about the disparity and what changes need to come. And it is also important that, it has to start from home. So it definitely has to start from the organizations who want to sort of, close this gap. Like BCCI has been so proactive, and Mr. Jaisha has taken some very good decisions in the right direction towards improving women's cricket in our country. And this can be seen as an example by the other organizations who would want to see their women's team grow by leaps and bounds, and create a landmark sort of a decision where, they also reduce the gap in terms of the disparity given to the women athletes.
Mithali, when you were heading the women's cricket team, did you at some stage raise this with the BCCI?
Well, see, I'm not a person who would want to raise it, but yes, I've always felt that, I honestly believed through performance you can create a bigger impact. So it was very important for me to build a team that can significantly change the way people watch women's cricket or think about women's cricket. So it was important for me to build a team, which we did, and the way the team played in the 2017 World Cup, post that a lot of changes have happened for the betterment of the sport. And I think if a team continues to win and continues to perform, then yes, everybody wants to look at the Indian team doing very well, and which we've been doing in the past 4-5 years. And that has led to a lot of such decisions taken by the BCCI. And I only hope that the team continues to do well so that the sport grows by leaps and bounds.
My last question to you. What will this pay equity policy for women mean in general? When you meet women aspirants of cricket, what are the questions they ask you, and what do you usually tell them? And what will change after today?
BCCI has been fair in terms of giving them the equal pay match fees, is because, the number of the formats we play is the same, like whether it's T20 or the ODI, even the test match now, the ICC has made it 5-day test matches. So I think in terms of putting the hard work and being on the field for the number of hours is just equal to what the men do. So I think in that terms, yes, BCCI has been fair to give the girls the equal match fees. And with that, what happens is the girls tend to have far more professional mindset of, hiring a personal physio or a personal trainer, going and finding out various facilities where they can work and become thorough professionals to represent India at the highest level. And that will create equally professional environment wherever they train, whether it is camp or it's a dressing room. And that slowly rubs on even to the domestic players, because they know what it is required to be there and play for India. Along with it comes, yes, if you give your 100%, you're going to have the match fee equivalent to the men. So yes, there is a lot. It does expect like a thorough professional attitude from the girls, which I'm sure they have been having it, but it will only build up a lot more.
Mithali Raj, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, this is a special day for women in general, not just women cricketers, but women like me who are of the opinion that this conversation which has begun regarding women in blue should spread, and women professionals should ask for their due. Let me bring in the guests now. Shanta Rangaswamy is former Indian cricket captain and BCCI Apex Council member. We also have Ayaz Memon, sports writer and commentator. Ayaz, was this decision taken in a consensus? This certainly is a red letter day.
It is. I think it's epochal, what's happened today. I think, parity in cricket is one thing. I think what this is going to lead to is a lot of thought going into all the other sports federations as to what they must do to include or make it more inclusive where pay parity is concerned, certainly, whether they are hockey players or footballers, as you mentioned, or any other sport. And I think that will just lead to the upliftment of sport in India. I think it's a very, very massive and major decision which has been taken by the BCCI. Yes, it may have taken a little time in coming, but I think things have moved swiftly in the last 15 years ever since women's cricket became part of the BCCI. Some baby steps earlier, now some more radical or some larger steps, including the women's IPL, and now about this pay parity. I think what's going to happen is that, as we've seen in men's cricket, the minute India became a huge market for men's cricket, so too, if it becomes a huge market for women's cricket, and this is one step where it can, the IPL and more money available for the women cricketers, then I think women's cricket also, I mean, the bastion for women's cricket will also become India. As
Yes.
it is, we are amongst the top 3 teams in the world. We need more talent to come in. We need more matches to be played by the women. And of course, some tournaments to be won, or most tournaments to be won, to give it a fillip.
Yes, and before I bring in Shanta Rangaswamy, Ayaz, the point being made by Mithali was also now that Indian women's cricket has a fan base of its own. And that if we were to win an ICC tournament, that will just give that fillip that we have been looking for.
Most certainly. I mean, I was in Australia in 2020 when India was playing Australia in the T20 World Cup final, and there were 90,000 people at the MCG, much as there were 90,000 to watch India play Pakistan in the current World Cup. And there was a lot of fervor. The Australians are very sports-loving people, but I'm pretty certain that if such a match had to be played in India in one of the big stadiums, whether it's Ahmedabad or Calcutta or Mumbai or somewhere, there will be a lot of people coming to watch women's cricketers play now. And it can only grow from here. One of the things is that the more they play and the better they do, they become stars in their own right.
Yes.
You don't have to just point out only at the men cricketers as the stars of cricket. Even the women cricketers, Smriti Mandhana, Mithali Raj, whoever else, Harmanpreet Kaur, and they become then draws. They lure or they invite the spectators to come in by their performances. And that's the stage which Indian cricket or women's cricket can reach very quickly if they're successful in some of their international campaigns, and obviously if the IPL takes off.
Yes, Mr. Rangaswamy, come in on this. You're a pioneer in more ways than one. You're the first captain of the Indian women's test team, the first Indian woman to score an international century, first Indian woman captain to win a test. There are several firsts to you. Today, when you hear an announcement of this nature, what are your thoughts, ma'am?
I'm elated. Just to set the record straight, I was part of the Apex Council meeting today, which decided this. But let me tell you, I take no credit. It's Mr. Jai Shah, the secretary, who proposed this and pushed it through. But I think it's a momentous decision. I think it's a revolutionary thought process that has enabled this. Australia and England started at least 5-6 decades before us, started women's cricket in their respective countries, but they have not introduced this. Only New Zealand did it recently, about a year back. I think it's a splendid decision, and hopefully this is just a first step towards the larger goal, which I think I must enunciate, provided you have the time.
Ma'am, since you said that you were part of the deliberations, what was the nature of deliberation like? Did most members of the panel agree that the time has come for women to get their due, this kind of parity is needed? And, when you look at this decision, there are several other categories as well. There is an A+ category in men's cricket, which is not there in women's cricket. It begins with A and moves on to B and C. This is, of course, the annual remuneration that is done by the BCCI.
You're talking of the central contracts, which
Yes.
is different from the match fee. They have now taken the first step forward and have said there will be parity in the match fees, whether it's a test match or one day or T20. my point is, it's a commendable decision. It's a right step. It's the right way forward. Now, coming to central contract, the men cricketers have 7 crores, 5 crores, 3 crores. They have different A plus, A, B, C and all. I think amongst women, 50 lakhs is the highest.
Yes.
And there are below that 30, 20 and things like that. But it's too early because we have to BCCI has to budget for it. I am positive now that the first major step has been taken. The rest will follow. I am very confident because there are progressive-minded people at the helm of BCCI, and I'm positive the day is not far off when there will be parity with the men cricketers in everything. But saying this, I'd also like all supporters of women's cricket to remember one thing. The revenue earning capacity of the men's team is enormous. We had an IPL where we made some money, women's IPL. So likewise, it is going to improve in course of time. I'm positive the day is not far off. Maybe a few years down the line, there will be parity in all respects.
Yes, and I ask, before India, there is only one country which has taken a call of this nature, that is New Zealand. Would you say that the cricket world will be viewing India very differently after this kind of call?
Most certainly. I mean, Shanta mentioned about England and Australia not having the same kind of parity for their women cricketers so far. I mean, India has been ahead in so many ways. Otherwise, also we've had a prime minister, woman
Yes,
prime minister,
absolutely.
5 decades back or more than that. So, I mean, what I think is that India today is pretty much the bastion of cricket. Certainly men's cricket, and increasingly it will be about women's cricket because let's face it, the audience for cricket runs into crores and crores and hundreds of crores in India. And anybody who wants to play cricket either wants to be playing in India in the IPL or against India in a bilateral series. And if you're not playing against India, then your coffers are getting impoverished. And likewise, as it has happened in men's cricket, I think it can reach a similar situation in women's cricket. So this is a very major step, as Shanta mentioned. I've seen the time when Shanta and Diana Adalji and her vintage, people of her vintage were playing, where they used to spend money from their own pocket to play for India. So I mean, things have moved tremendously. But yes, more needs to be done. I think really is more engagements now. Getting a talent pool, which will be a good feeder line for more women cricketers to emerge from our country, and obviously, therefore, more matches to be played at the international level and international tournaments. Once that happens, I think there'll be so much more exposure and the fan following will increase exponentially. And also, therefore, consequently, the sponsorship, the advertising, everything that makes up for a robust ecosystem.
Ayaz, before I get the final words from Shanta, I want to understand from you. The fact is that why did it take BCCI so long to come up with a decision such as this? It's not that this has not been discussed in the past. Ayaz, if you can hear me. Okay, I will try and fix that line with Ayaz. But Shanta, are you optimistic that perhaps BCCI at some stage will also have a female president in future?
Oh, I'm positive it will happen. I don't see that as a big deal because we already have Tamil Nadu had a lady president. So it's not the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association had a lady president early. Unfortunately, some of us seniors we are ruled out because, but I won't be surprised if a person like Mithali Raj in the years to come, 10 years from now, she could be a very good candidate for the president's post. So I don't rule out that possibility, especially because ideas are changing. Concepts, the age-old concepts are fast disappearing. Women are being accorded equal status in every strata of society. So I won't be surprised if a lady occupies the president's post in BCCI.
Okay, Ayaz, we are seeing massive reforms take place in the BCCI. Decisions that have been taken regarding women's sport and, women's cricket, of course, has been very forward-looking. What is making BCCI take these calls?
I think, this is, it's a new age thought process which is coming in, and I think it's all for the good. You can't be cloistered in still thinking like fuddy-duddies, which was always the complaint against the BCCI. But things have changed. Today, India, as I mentioned, is not just the mecca of cricket, but also the El Dorado. The money is here, the sponsorship is here, the spectatorship is massive. India is really the hub of the sport. And if you keep one section out of it, which is women's cricket, then you're not allowing or you're not fostering the growth of the sport in its entirety. Okay. You can't be looking only at men's cricket and ignoring women's cricket today to be a global player in the sport, so to speak. So I think that awareness has come in. I think it was overdue to an extent, but it has come in, and I think things are moving very rapidly, as we've seen in the last couple of months. Yes. We've seen the announcement of the IPL. Women's IPL coming up, and now we've seen this pay parity coming in. I think we've had some very good results. We haven't won an ICC title, but Commonwealth Games were in the final. T20 World Cup, we were in the final, lost in the final. At 2017, we lost in the final. India's women's cricket team is amongst the top 3 in the world and capable of beating the top team, which is Australia. Okay. So I think everything needs to be done to spot and nurture young women, girl child talent, and then let women's cricket also grow. And it'll fetch its own audience once these girls end up becoming stars and doing well.
All right, Ayaz Memon and Shanta, thank you so much for your time. Of course, as we said, today is a momentous day, a landmark day with the decision that has been taken by the BCCI. We are slipping into a short break. Up next, the Telangana poaching scandal, that debate after a quick break. We'll also be joined by Union Minister Kishan Reddy and seek his response on this entire poaching charge that have been leveled against the BJP.